Also, I am a complete egghead today because I have like an oil treatment on my hair, and I was like, wait, but I can't get my headphones oily, so I have like a cap underneath and then a hat over top of that. So that is why I just look cold.
When you said egghead, I thought you meant like in a metaphorical sense, and then you
no, like my
were
head
literally talking
like
about
egg.
your head shape, and I was like, oh,
no.
okay.
What's
My
a
head is shaped
metaphorical
like an egg.
I feel like people say like, oh, like I'm such an egghead, like when you do something dumb or something.
Oh.
I mean, I also am an egghead in that literal, not literal sense, figurative sense. I'm an egghead in all senses.
Egghead would be if you had an egg for a head. That's like the most literal sense.
Okay, can we talk about something, which is that
Humpty Dumpty?
Why? Yes.
Okay,
why is
nice.
Humpty Dumpty an egg? Like if you listen to the song,
because he's fragile.
But Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses, all the king's men could have put him together again.
Yeah.
Nowhere in there does it say egg, but we all collectively were just like, yeah, this guy's probably an egg.
What's the most fragile thing you can think of?
I mean, maybe like a sheet of glass? But like, I guess that's not like an animate object. Would it be a sheet of glass?
Think about it. Most things, if they break, could probably be put back together again. Like you break bones, that can be fixed. Even a sheet of glass, you could super glue it or something like that. There's always a fix. But
you can't get the yolk back in the shell.
Exactly.
I hate everything about this.
It's the only thing on planet Earth that could not be put back together again. It's the logical solution. What is the feature-length podcast? Anyone?
The feature-length podcast is a show where three idiots talk about film and entertainment.
Good answer.
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey, are you talking to us?
Yeah. I'm talking to the voices in my head.
Like I truly don't know. It felt like a fever dream. I swear to God, I could not.
It sounds so stupid hearing that.
If you're listening to this is a podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast.
Welcome back to the feature-length podcast, a podcast where we talk about movies and TV for a feature length of time.
1987. This movie came out in 87.
Yeah, I know, right?
I thought this was a 90s movie.
No, this is right before When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
This came out before Batman 89? How does that make any sense? Okay.
I forgot Billy Crystal was in this movie.
Oh, dude, he's so
Well,
good.
I mean, he doesn't look like himself, so fair that you didn't remember.
Wallace Shawn. The greatest film character of all time.
Rex himself.
Rex.
From Toy Story?
Yeah.
That's the first thing I think of when I think of him.
I think this is the first thing I think of, but then I also remember he's Rex, and that makes me really happy because he's fantastic as Rex. Okay, 1987. I still don't trust that. October. Why
What do
October?
you mean you don't
this is
trust
such
that?
This is such a like summer 1990s movie. How did it come out in October of 87?
Marco, you weren't even born. How do you know what a
Yeah.
summer 1990s
Just the
movie
vibes.
feels
I can tell the
like?
vibes.
Well, you're
The vibes
wrong.
are all wrong. I hate this. Okay.
Oh my God.
Are we ready?
Airing your grievances with Humpty Dumpty with the fact that this came out in October 1987.
It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense.
Well, I'm ready whenever you are, I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, it's totally fine for this to be a free will and
Oh, it's gonna be freewheeling. Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Feature Length Podcast. I am joined today, as always, by Dan.
Hello.
And Carolina.
Hello.
Dan, if you couldn't tell, I just keep trying to catch you off guard again, like I did the one time. I just keep introducing you faster now to see if I can ever catch you off guard.
I'm here with my host Dan.
Next time you shouldn't even have a sentence.
just start the episode, Dan.
Yeah. Oh, that was such a great live reaction on that episode. I love that so much. Yeah, today we are discussing The Princess Bride, which apparently was released in October of 1987. None of that seems true to me. This is definitely a summer 1990s movie, but whatever, sure. October 87, whatever that means. Yeah, this film was written by William Goldman, adapted from the novel, which he also wrote. Directed by Rob Reiner, who was just on a tear at this point in his career, as we've previously talked about in the When Harry Met Sally episode. Right around this time, he had a string of movies, including This Is Spinal Tap, this, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and I think there was something else too in that little run of movies he did. Anyway, it was a pretty wild run of movies.
Sleepless in Seattle. No, that was the writer.
No, that's Nora Ephron. Yeah, but it wasn't. Yeah. Something else. Anyway, he's done a bunch of stuff. Yeah, and the cast for this also fantastic. Carrie Elways, Robin Wright, Mandy Patinkin, Billy Crystal, Wallace Shawn, Christopher Guest. All great, fantastic actors, and also Fred Savage, right, from the Wonder Years. He's the little boy in this,
and the grandpa's someone famous.
He is too. I forget his name. Yeah, but maybe it'll be here. Nope, just Fred Savage. Okay, I'm not gonna search any further than that on Google. The Princess Bride, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, a kind of silly, whimsical, fairy tale-esque adventure story that touches on themes of like true love and romance, but also has a lot of kind of action and adventure, and it's just a very kind of classic swashbuckling adventure movie with lots of comedy throughout. Lots of comedy. It does not take itself seriously whatsoever. In fact, and we can get into sort of like the themes of it, but it's very much sort of a parody of that type of genre, while also still like touching on the things that make that genre enjoyable in the first place, which at the end of the day is kind of what a good parody of the genre should be. So I have seen this movie the most out of all of us. I watched this movie a billion times as a child, and then didn't watch it for a little while, and then as an adult came back to it, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, I'd like to get your guys' thoughts. Carol, I don't know how many times you've seen this, but I know the first time you saw it, I showed it to you a few years back.
Yeah, I actually hadn't seen it since.
Okay, so this is your second time.
Yeah, so
nice.
That's why I needed to rewatch it, and I did so yesterday. And honestly, just when I had it queued up on Disney Plus and saw that it was only an hour and a half long, I was overjoyed. I was like, I haven't seen an hour and a half long movie in what feels like months. This is such a gift. But yeah, it was fun to watch again, and it's like funny because I feel like this movie's parodied a lot. That every iconic line I feel like I've heard a million times, even though I've only seen the movie once. So even though it was only my second viewing ever, I felt like I had watched it hundreds of times, similar to you. But like not in a bad way, just in a way that like I didn't fully need to pay attention or make as many notes as I thought I would need to, because it's a pretty straightforward plot. Everything is laid out very nicely for you, which with my memory and brain capacity I really appreciate. And also this time, I think because when I first watched it with you, I hadn't yet seen anything Monty Python-y, and I hadn't seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail. But now that I have seen that movie a handful of times, I couldn't help thinking how similar this movie is to that one. And I like also love that one, so that was fun. But yeah, no, it was just a fun watch. Loved to see it again. I love all the action, choreography, just the absolute like silliness of it. And every single actor in it, I was like, I feel like I've seen them in a million things. And so the research for this took me down a million rabbit holes. And it turns out I haven't even seen that many things with all the people. They were just probably in like one iconic thing, and I had them front of mind. But yeah, we can talk about all that later. My thought is 2 thumbs up. Dan, to you.
So first of all, you made a really good point of like there's so many lines in this that you feel like are just so entrenched in like pop culture that even I for the record, I haven't seen this movie in like 15 years or so, and I'm pretty sure this is like only the second time I've really seen it in full. And I was kind of the same way, where I was like, oh yeah, I know this scene already. It's so popular. But yeah, it is very Monty Python-y, which I liked. It's really enjoyable. It is also very straightforward. I had like maybe one problem story-wise, which I won't talk about now. Okay. But just because like comparing it to when I watched it as a kid 15 years ago, there was one thing that didn't really click with me, or it didn't occur to me then that occurred to me now, but whatever. But yeah, and also to your point, Carol, about how you feel like every actor, like you've seen some like you feel like you've seen them everywhere, but they really just have like one major role that that you've seen them in. When I first saw this movie, and I saw Cary Elwes, is that how you pronounce it?
I think Cary Elwes.
No idea.
That's how I've heard it.
When I saw him in this movie as a kid for the first time, I was like, oh, it's the guy from Liar Liar. You guys remember that?
Oh
Jim
my
Carrey
god,
movie?
yeah.
Was he in
That was
Liar
the first
Liar?
connection.
I haven't seen that like since I was a very young child, so I have no memory.
He's he's the guy that Jim Carrey's ex-wife is marrying.
Wow, I don't even remember that. Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in so long either.
That's the connection that I made.
Damn.
Immediately.
Makes sense.
Anyway, that's a tangent. Yeah, this is it's a fun movie. It's also very funny, even now, watching it as an adult. And overall, it was just a really good time. It's just an enjoyable watch.
Yeah. I watched this movie a bunch as a kid, and it's one of those things where when you're watching it as a kid, and this will touch on something I want to talk about with the writer, William Goldman. That's sort of a deep dive we can do on that. But when you're watching it as a kid, it doesn't necessarily stand out as, like, silly. Like, it's obviously funny, but not self-funny. Like, it's more serious. Like, the stakes are more serious, and you're laughing.
That's exactly how I took it when I watched it as a kid.
Yeah, it's just like, this is just like Zorro or any, like, swashbuckling type of movie.
Like that scene where they're rolling down the hill after she finds out it's Wesley.
Yes.
As a kid, I didn't remember that being like a hilarious thing. It was just like a dramatic thing.
It's a dramatic moment, yeah. Or even when they're going through the swamp and he's just like lifting her over the fire spurts or whatever. Like, I don't know, stuff like that doesn't really stand out to you as a kid, right? But yeah, I really liked it for the like seriousness that I enjoyed it just as a piece of like fiction as a child. And then I ended up like coming back to it as an adult during my Sorkin phase because, and I think we may have touched on this previously, but like William Goldman was, and I say was because he recently passed away, was like Sorkin's mentor essentially in screenwriting. So when Sorkin was writing A Few Good Men, which was initially a play, the play premiered on Broadway, and then after the play came out, Rob Reiner's production company essentially bought the rights to turn it into a movie. And Sorkin wrote the script for it, but Rob Reiner was sort of like, this guy's never written like a movie script before, so he brought Goldman on to do sort of a little bit of ghostwriting, but also just to like mentor Sorkin through the process. So that's sort of what ended up happening with that. And they then became like collaborators, and he helped them with a few other things and yada yada, and they stayed friends throughout the years, not just the 1 year. But anyway, when I was doing a deep dive on Sorkin, he kind of mentioned Goldman being an idol, and there's a book you can get that has like 5 of Goldman's screenplays, and then he also has like essays that he wrote before about like what he was going through at the time he wrote the screenplay, or about the production of the movie or whatever. And one of them was on Princess Bride, so I kind of reread sort of his introduction to it and kind of flipped through the screenplay, and then ended up like watching the movie again. This is probably in university as an adult, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is a genius piece of writing and filmmaking in terms of like what it manages to pull off and execute. And I had like a whole new appreciation for it as an adult, like you guys said, more in the vein of like a Monty Python, although I think still more serious than a Monty Python in terms of like intrinsically, but that kind of level of very like dry humor. And I really love this movie. I mean, I think it has so much humor, but I also think, like I alluded to, it also just has so much like genuine fun and heart in it. And I think the job that Goldman does in terms of like adapting it into a movie is just like sublime. Like it's so rare to find. We talked about this with Michael Crichton, like to find someone that's good at writing a novel and someone good at writing a screenplay, but
their own novel, like
exactly
they condense their own novel into a screenplay.
What a really impossible skill. And so to pull it off this elegantly, it was like incredible. Like I absolutely love this movie. I'm so glad we're talking about it. So yeah.
I'm glad you had that background knowledge, because I saw that this movie was based on a book, and like the guy who wrote the screenplay wrote the book, and I just assumed it was a novel author who one-off adapted this into a film. and I didn't care to look any further. I made an assumption, and I was like, this is my headcanon, and it will stay that way. But it makes sense that that was not the truth, because this was a very good screenplay.
Yeah, so he's kind of like become a screenwriter, not become, but is like a screenwriting legend, and
he's up and coming.
Yeah, up and comer. You might have heard of him. No, but like he wrote another like sci-fi book called Marathon Man, and he also wrote the screenplay for that, and that became like a famous movie. He also wrote the screenplay for Misery, which is that Kathy Bates movie based on the Stephen King book.
Yeah.
Also directed by Rob Reiner. So like, yeah, those are the ones. Oh, he also wrote for Butch Cassidy. He did the screenplay for Butch Cassidy, which is fantastic. All the President's Men, also fantastic. Also was apparently an inspiration for the Batman, which like, I mean, I've seen
which one.
All the President's Men. Was it? Oh yeah, the new
newest
Batman. Yeah. Matt Reeves was like, yeah, like I watched All the President's Men. That was like an inspiration. I was like, I don't see that whatsoever in this movie, but okay, whatever, dude. Great movie, so no problem. Other than the fact that he was like, I watched a good movie and wanted to make a good movie. I mean, I guess in that sense it could have been an inspiration, but, you know.
Damn, this is some good filmmaking.
Maybe I should also do good filmmaking. Yeah. Yeah, basically. But yeah, so we can maybe start there in terms of the screenplay and the framing device, which I think is really smart. Basically, in his essay, and I haven't read it in a little while now. I meant to leaf through it today, and then I just didn't have time, so sue me, podcast listeners, sorry. But like from what I remember, basically he wrote The Princess Bride like because he was sick of reading the same fairy tales to his children and how like dumb they were, and so he wanted to write like a good one, but one that would also like pass as a fairy tale, if that makes sense. So even in novel form, it was intentionally sort of like not a parody, but a very like self-referential fairy tale story that would be enjoyable for him, but like his children could also just get value out of as, oh yeah, it's like a fun adventure. But then when he goes to write the movie, again, I could be 100% wrong on this, but from what I remember, that's when he decides to add the framing device of the book existing and the book being read to someone, which
I think that's true.
Okay. I'm glad we have two people that think something is true, so that almost constitutes a fact. Almost.
I would say I'm like 95% sure. I trust it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if I, my memory's a little shoddy these days, but I think that's about right. Yeah, so the framing device is something I wanted to bring up because it is, it's become such a thing in pop culture, even to the point where they released a PG-13 cut of Deadpool 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where they had adult Fred Savage come back and Deadpool would just explain to him the stuff they had to cut out of the movie, which is maybe like my favorite joke ever. Like that is such a wonderful joke. But yeah, I just, as a kid, the framing device, I was always kind of like, whatever, just get to the... It was
like
very
you
much
were
like
the child.
Yes.
I know what you're gonna say.
It was like Assassin's Creed when I was like, just get to the old stuff. I don't care about the present day context. But as an adult, I love the framing device now for a couple of reasons. One, the fact that it has its own like narrative story that gets paid off with like the kid like effectively hating his grandfather, but then by the end of it being like, oh no, like I was into this and I appreciate this. And of course, the classic screenwriting, one of the first things we set up is like, as you wish, meaning I love you. And then that comes full circle at the end. Very nice, very sweet screenwriting stuff. But the thing I think I appreciated most about it this time is that it, like the kid, like we are all Fred Savage watching this movie. Like, I think you're meant to feel like Fred Savage in so much as the movie starts and you're kind of like, what is this? Like, this is so dumb and silly, and I'm an adult. But, like, as the movie goes on, it's more like an exploration of, like, yeah, it's okay to, like campy things. Like, you don't have to, like, pretend that you don't get enjoyment out of camp and that everything has to be, like, self-serious or whatever to be good. And that's sort of the journey he goes on, and you see him, like, slowly start to get more entrenched in the story. And even by the end of it with the dad, or the grandfather goes to skip over the kiss, and he's like, nah, it's okay, like, you can, I don't mind if you say the kissing part. And it's like, yeah, like, that very much is the arc you go on with this movie, I think, as a watcher of it, as an adult watcher. So I really like the framing device. I don't know what your guys' take on that is.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I didn't think about it that much, but you make very good points, I think. I mean, I wouldn't say I disagree with anything that you just said. I'd even go as far to say, yeah, it absolutely does. I love the mini arc in the present day as well. I did have Assassin's Creed flashbacks as well. But
yeah, how could you not? Yeah.
But that's okay. Watching it at my age now, I like it a lot more.
Yeah, it adds something to the story.
I think I was with you when I watched this as a kid, I was like kind of indifferent to it as well. But now it adds something more.
For sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I was thinking back on the movie, because I hadn't seen it in however many years it's been, I forgot about the framing device. So then when it started and there was like a child playing a video game, obviously it immediately came back to me, but I was like, oh, right, because when you think about it, however many years are moved, you just think of the story, because obviously that's the most important part and takes up the most of the runtime. But yeah, no, I think I liked it. I didn't dislike it. I was a bit confused for a second at the beginning, and for some reason, something about the way the old man looked, I was like, is this a young guy in makeup? I don't know, like, what makes me distrustful of, like, some old people, but I was just like, I can't tell if this is legitimately an old man. So that was a little bit distracting, but I got over it. And then I liked it. And I read that there was some version of this film, I don't know if it was just an initial draft or if they filmed it, I don't remember, I don't have those details, but apparently there were scenes where the kid got like angry at the grandfather for like skipping over parts or like reading it too slowly, like not just like, oh, you can like read the kissing, like that was nice, but I think it would have been funny if they just had him get like angry at his grandfather for reading the story wrong.
Yeah.
I'm glad they kept it out, but it could have been a funny take.
I do like when you get to that one part when it's like, the king has died and she's now the queen. And he's like, no, that would never happen. And he's like, just hang on. And then he gets to it and he's like, yeah, you're smart. Shut up. He's like, let me just keep reading the fucking story. It's good. It's really good.
Okay. So I have something to say. I want to talk about my one problem narratively with this story. But do we want to, or do we have to do you think most people listening to this would understand? Like, everyone's seen this movie, right?
I mean, you probably know. Like, if not, it's pretty simple stuff. There's a
princess,
a farm boy, and a princess, and he falls in love, but then has to go off to sea and is assumed to be dead. And she is supposed to get married to the king, but ends up getting
the prince.
The prince who's soon to be king. She ends up getting captured by these three idiots, which is like a whole side plot. Let's not get into the
Wait, I have a question about that, actually.
Okay.
Were they hired by the prince?
Yes.
Okay.
I caught that in the, like, I always forget that, but there is a specific line when he's like, when I paid Vicini to kidnap her, I expected this to happen. Which also makes sense because he's a fucking idiot, but when he's tracking them, he seems like so smart and knows exactly where to go, but it's also like, oh, he paid them. Yeah, like this is supposed to happen this way. Yeah, which is clever because I was watching it. And I was like, why are they like making such an effort to show how smart this guy is at tracking? Like, is he fucking Aragorn?
I know.
Like, what is this? He's like,
prince who's sheltered in a castle would never be able to do this field work.
Exactly. And then when it's revealed that he paid them, I was like, oh,
okay, that makes sense.
That makes so much sense.
I missed the line.
Yeah,
but I kind of put it together when I was like, oh, he also has the goal of going to war with this other kingdom.
Gilder, yeah.
Which is what the thieves stole her for in the beginning.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. And then, guess what? Turns out her love is still alive, and he's coming back to be with her, and nobody's happy about that. and so there's shenanigans.
Except for her.
Well, she's happy, but he gets captured and almost killed, and then he's only mostly dead, so they take him to Billy Crystal, and Billy Crystal brings him back to life, and then there's a big fight, and true love wins, basically, is the gist of the story. It's a very difficult story to, like, quantify what happens without being like, I sound like an insane person, because it is silly. Like, it's a silly fairy tale.
But also, big picture, like you said, it is simple. Like, narratively, if you take out, all of, like, the side quests and the fact that, like, one of the idiots is, like, actually a giant, and like
Yeah,
there's like
all the random
poison
details.
Like you
test
said,
at
side
some
quests.
point. Yeah.
It very much is side questy.
Yeah.
It's like a video game.
He has to
it's
defeat
kind of
3
like,
bosses.
Yeah, it does have that. Yeah, that's true. Which I guess makes sense because a lot of like fantasy video games would be based on like fantasy lore, and like fantasy lore in general in books tends to be very side questy. Like even the Lord of the Rings books are very side questy of like, now what are these people doing? And it's like, so that makes sense for what this is and what it's going for. Yeah.
The only scene, or the only shot, I guess, that stood out to me like, whoa, where did that come from, was when he almost backhands the princess.
Yeah. So, okay, maybe let's talk about that whole part of the story. And, like, we'll just... There's no real way to structure this discussion, as I'm sure if you're listening a half hour in, you have discerned for yourself at this point. But, like...
Well, 15 minutes of that was talking about Humpty Dumpty.
Right. And then 10 minutes of that was me trying to figure out if my house is
Speaking of fairy
haunted.
tales, so it's technically on topic.
Yeah, it is on brand.
That's staying in.
Oh, absolutely.
It better.
That conversation's
I'm not, Carol,
gold.
you're editing this one,
Yeah.
so you better. Yeah, you're keeping it in. No, but I guess something I've always kind of struggled with, even as an adult now watching this, is like, I think him coming back and being dressed in this black costume, like, it's supposed to be like, we're supposed to know it's obviously him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I also want to talk about, like, I wish they had done more to cover his face so it was an actual surprise, but then you have a point, like, maybe it was never supposed to be a surprise.
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling, like, I think the audience is supposed to know it's him, and that's why it's so funny that everyone's confused.
Doesn't know it's him? Yeah.
But why is he such an asshole to her until it's revealed that it's him?
I know.
And then there's, like, such a sudden turnaround.
Well,
like,
no, because
now
I
they're
think it's
in
because
love
he's
again.
mad at her for being engaged.
Well, that's what it is, but
Also, like, he
feels
threatens to
very-
backhand her, like Dan said. Like, it is, like...
He's been living
Not
on the
cool.
seas for too long.
Yeah, fair enough. He's completely
Pirate
lost
life.
it.
But also it kind of borders on ridiculous, because at one point she's like, yeah, I used to be in love with this guy, and like is describing his eyes in detail while looking into the eyes
looking
of
into his eyes.
him
Yes.
in this mask. And I'm like, come on. So I think it has to just be like a big wink.
Yeah. But now, guys, now he has a mustache.
Yeah, you can't tell.
Changes
You
everything.
can't
That
tell.
tiny little
thinnest little
wispy mustache.
It's the classic superhero thing of, like, how
Yeah.
could you not tell? This
It's
is
the
same
Clark
person.
Kent
Yeah,
glasses thing.
Yeah, or even, like, something we didn't talk about in the Batman episode we did last week, but I'd like to bring up now, is just the fact that obviously Batman's cowl in this movie is way more open, which I love. I like the look of it, but when like, Gordon sees Bruce Wayne at the funeral, and Bruce Wayne just does his, like, patented, like, emo turn, and he's just like, his like jawline is out. I'm like, yeah, you would fucking know this is Batman. Come on.
You think
But
he's the only one in the world with that jawline?
not with yeah. You know what? He has a pretty amazing jawline.
I will say
and also
it's
just,
the
like,
only one in the movie that looked like that.
That's
True.
fair.
True.
That was almost a purposeful decision, which is weird.
Yeah.
Like, how could they not
for sure.
know?
For
Well,
sure.
it's tough because it looks, if it's a good jawline, it looks really good in the outfit, but then it will make him more
It's
obvious.
a giveaway. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Much like this movie, where it is ridiculous, but I think I think it is a joke,
Yeah.
like a
Okay, that makes a lot
Yeah,
more sense
yeah.
to me.
I got to imagine, because it definitely did always stand out to me, and I was like, oh, this has to be intentional. Like, there's no way.
Well, okay. Also, as a kid, I remember not knowing it was him. So I think that's another
my
thing where
God.
it's like, for the kids, maybe I was just stupid. But
Well, you're obviously not stupid, but
maybe it's like, for the kids,
an
this
egghead.
might actually fool them. But again, for
what a Humpty Dumpty.
but again, for the adults, it's a bonus thing of, like, you can laugh at how ridiculous it is that no one.
Yeah, that's probably
That's
true.
it.
That's probably another one of those things that's in there for that reason. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Who do you guys think is cooler though, Wesley or Inigo?
Oh, Inigo.
Yeah.
Inigo.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He is so good. He's my favorite character in this movie. Like, probably because he's the Batman, but, like, that's okay. Like, he's literally, like, if Batman and Zorro were combined, which kind of is just Batman or Zorro anyway, because they're the same character. But I love him.
He's great.
And I love his arc. I love his little
Yeah.
journey that he goes on. It's fantastic.
He's also my favorite character.
And I was
Yeah.
gonna say it was really epic when he was in that final battle with that Count guy, But then I was thinking, and I have to be fair, because Wesley also did have his own epic scenes, like climbing up the side of that mountain when the rope was cut, or even just up the rope. Hilarious. Visually amazing. But yeah, he does some cool stuff too, but I do think Inigo is cooler and funnier. And I like that he like takes a break to just like be in the forest drunk for a little bit.
Yeah, he reverts back to his alcoholism. Yeah.
There's alcoholic themes in a kids movie.
Oh, it's so good.
Wait, is this a kids movie?
Well, it's kind of
a good question.
It is and it's not. Like,
well, yeah. Was it marketed as a kids movie? What's it rated?
I think it's just like PG or something.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I watched it as a kid, so I'm sure it was. Just
I watched
it
at school.
Yeah, I definitely watched it at grade school too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is one of those movies where it is sort of like, I don't know if it's for anyone. It's more like anyone could watch it and get something out of it. But I am curious to see like what a trailer for it would have looked like. Because like, yeah, would you sell it for adults, or do you sell it for kids and then have adults be pleasantly surprised like a Pixar movie or something? You know,
that's what I was just gonna say. I think it falls in the same vein as like a Toy Story movie.
Yeah,
like kids get a lot out of it, but obviously like adults can very much still watch those movies and enjoy them. For sure.
And there is then built-in stuff that's just for adults too.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
jokes and stuff.
Yeah, like it'll go over the kid's head, but that's fine.
And this movie does that to another level, but it's the same idea still.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, even just sort of like the construction of it is a joke in and of itself. Like to the point where it's like, everything that happens is kind of just tongue-in-cheek the whole time. But
the whole thing really, even like you said in your intro, like the movie existing at all
is it like a joke. Yeah, like a joke
that a kid wouldn't get.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Speaking of Toy Story, it's time to talk about
good segue.
Oscar-winning, not actually Oscar-winning, but if I had my way, Oscar-winning performance by Wallace Shawn in this movie. This is like a just like defining performance, and just like I talk a lot about, Dan and I, we both talk a lot about like quotes that aren't quotes that like only like we know or say, and like almost every line he has in this movie is a quote between my sister and I that only we say, and my family's constantly like, what is that? Like, he is so dumb, like so impossibly dumb and angry all the time. It's like my favorite
character trope.
It's just like George Costanza. Like, he's just an idiot and he's angry. Like, that is my favorite like type of humor in a character.
And he's a short, bald little man.
Yeah, he's just the most unintimidating guy that's trying to be intimidating and has no idea what he's talking about. It's my favorite. It's my absolute favorite.
I've also, like, because I hadn't watched this for 15 years, I forgot, or I guess never really realized that, like, I've heard his line of like, inconceivable, but I never realized that this is what it's from, like, or that it was from anything. So the fact that he said that a bunch in this movie was funny.
Yeah, I love when Inigo calls him on it. He's like, I don't think that means what you think it means, because he just keeps saying it's like the only thing he says. It's really good.
And I love the scene where the poisoning scene.
Oh, I mean, that's
so great.
I wrote down, like, I took notes obviously, and like I'm pretty sure half my notes is just lines of dialogue from that scene that are unbelievably funny. Like
his speech of like trying to rationalize which
poison. Yeah, and just going back and forth, and Wesley's like, you're just stalling, you don't know what it is. And I like how his conclusion to it is just to be like, hey, look over there, and then he switches the cups, like as if that would do anything. And he's so proud of himself after, like he's almost like trying to contain laughter. He's like, yeah, let's drink now. And I'm like, dude, like, oh, it's so good, it's unbelievable, man.
But then I like the twist that he poisoned both cups. Which I remembered there was a twist like that. I just couldn't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because I was like, obviously there was no chance of him dying, because you can't really trust those odds. I wouldn't. Yeah. I don't think he would put his life in that kind of peril.
50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was our friend Miguel. We were watching something, and there was like a similar plot line, and he's like, isn't there like a movie where someone poisons both and has like a tolerance? And I was like, yeah, Princess Bride. Oh. And he was like, oh yeah. And the only reason I remember that is because I think what we were watching was like a very serious, like a James Bond. It was something like that, like a very serious action movie.
Oh, I think we were watching Casino Royale, and he gets poisoned.
That's right,
I
when he gets
remember that
poisoned in
now.
a casino. And Miguel was like, this is from something, right? And I was like, well, Princess Bride. And he was like, oh shit, yeah, I guess that is what it's
The
from.
comedy movie.
Which is just like a hilarious thing. That like this movie, once again, is just sort of like in pop culture known for this scene, this random scene, which in and of itself is a comedic scene, but cool little, like, actually cool premise idea. That, like, no, I just have immunity to this thing, so I was safe regardless.
Yeah.
Cool.
But also, you want to talk about a scene of him defeating one of the guys, that sword fight with Inigo.
Oh my god.
Like, the choreography.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
It is
And
so
that
much
set,
fun,
like-
and I also love how they, like, are not trying to hide that all of these stones are obviously made of whatever you make fake stone
Like
out of.
plaster?
Like
Yeah,
foam
that makes
and weigh
it funnier,
nothing.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
But it's so cool. Like, I like how they made that set specifically for, like, it's like a play set almost that you would have, like, if you were a kid and you would play with two toys. Like, they built that set for specific choreographed moments.
Exactly, where it's like you build up to this thing and you can do the swing off that.
Yeah.
And it's
Jumping
very
off
cool.
rocks and
It really reminds me in its construction and even its lighting of like a set from like Star
play?
Trek from like the 60s. You know what I mean? Where they would just like, they would go to a planet and there would just be like a set of this. It's like the planet and it's just like this one little set where they're
it's
like
like a mound of rock.
yeah, and it's like, wow, look at this rock, bone. Like, what's the problem with it? And they have to like scan it and figure shit out. Like, it very much looks and feels like that, which again is probably part of the joke of like this being a low budget, silly fantasy thing.
I mean, low budget.
yeah.
It was still like 16 million in 87.
Oh no, yeah, it definitely not like actually low
Yeah, yeah.
budget,
It's like
but
made
like
to look like it.
Yeah.
yeah, like an expensive budget to look low budget.
Yes.
And to
Which
look
is a
like
little bit
it's-
counterintuitive, but
yeah,
you know.
exactly.
But I liked it. It reminded me a lot of just a stage play set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of most of the sets did in this movie.
Yeah, I guess you're right. They're all kind of like yeah.
But a lot of
Building
it
up that stage
was,
plays
I mean, a
quality.
lot of it. I don't know percentage-wise how much of it, but a lot of it was filmed on location in, like, England and either Ireland or Scotland. Is it bad that I always mix the two up? But anyway.
Probably Scotland.
Yeah, they went
like
somewhere
Monty
with
Python.
castles, so that probably...
That's
Which is
just
yeah.
more like in the fields of like hilly
Yeah.
grass.
Yeah.
Scotland is all. I mean, I've been there, so I can say this, but it's all. I'm not being racist. It's all. It's all grass and castles. That's all that's in Scotland.
That's not. How would that be racist? You're just talking about their
I'm
agriculture.
just fucking around. I love Scotland. Scotland's like my favorite trip ever. It's so dope. It's just.
I remember
grass,
you just
castles,
sent me, like,
and
100
beer.
pictures of, like, castles when
Dude.
you were there. I was
Castles
like,
are
nice.
sick. I love castles. And yeah, also
Actually, isn't the castle from Harry Potter in Scotland?
yes, and Monty Python. Some of their castles were filmed in
Nice,
Scotland
nice.
as well. So pretty much anytime you need a castle, you just film in Scotland because there's so many of them that you can always find one to film at least exteriors and stuff. Like interiors, you might build on a set, but
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, in hindsight, I think we could have paired this episode with Holy Grail.
yeah, we probably could have paired this with Holy Grail.
Because they're very similar, but like Monty Python.
All right, guys,
is
let's
like,
cut now and watch.
Yeah.
Monty Python is like a whole tier above the self-awareness of this.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is
sure,
like-
sure.
This is like a light version of that, and then the next level would be like a Monty Python movie.
yeah, for sure. Oh my god, that movie's so funny. Holy shit.
Have we ever watched it together?
Not together, no, but I know we've talked about it because we both
Yeah.
obviously watched it.
Yeah.
We should definitely do it on the podcast one day.
We should do like a couple Monty Python movies.
Yeah, I have Life of Brian over there.
Oh, I've never seen.
I've never
that
seen
one.
that
I've
one, but I
only
hear it's
seen
great
the
so
Holy
far.
Grail, so if we do anything
So far,
else,
that's all I've seen.
Me
it'll
too.
be-
That's the only.
Oh,
one.
perfect. Then we have to do it just to give us a
Yeah, we have
reason
to.
to watch the rest.
For sure. Should we talk about Andre the Giant?
Oh
in
yeah,
this movie.
yeah. He's in this movie.
He's in this movie. I feel bad because by all accounts he was like a very nice person and stuff.
I didn't
but
know
like,
he was a wrestler.
yeah, he was a professional wrestler.
I mean, it makes sense if you're that giant.
His
you
name is
gotta do
Andre the
something.
Giant.
Yeah.
First name Andre, last name the Giant.
No, middle name the.
Yeah, last name Giant. Yeah, I mean, he by all accounts, like everyone loved him and he was a very like nice, sweet person. But you know, he's probably like one of the weaker parts of this movie, just in terms of
Because
like,
he's a wrestler. Yeah.
he's a wrestler. He's kind of like stiff line delivery, and it's also kind of like hard to hear what he's saying a lot of the time.
But I
Well, it's
think
'cause he's
even
putting on
that
this fake
added to the
Greenlandic
self-awareness.
Yeah, it was funny.
Sure.
For sure.
Like
For
even
sure,
with like
for sure,
him
yeah.
just rhyming all the time.
I did like
And
that.
actually, honestly, one of my favorite parts is at the end when he just like is at the bottom of the window with the 4 white stallions. And he's like, yeah, I just found them, and I thought it'd be useful if we ever found the lady. Hi, lady.
Yeah.
So sweet.
It's very fun. Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk now about my one screenplay problem that I've been alluding to.
Go for it.
I keep forgetting. So, okay, my only problem is like at the end of the second act, going into the third act, because we're talking about Andre the Giant and Inigo now.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of like they learn about everything that they didn't know prior, like in the screenplay.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Like
yes.
they learned that the 6-fingered man is there in the castle. Like the guy
Yes,
that Inigo is looking for, they know where he is now. They learn that Wesley is going to be killed, which they shouldn't really have any reason to know because the last time they saw him, they all fought Wesley and then kind of separated.
Yeah.
Am I missing something?
So how they explain it, although I still think it doesn't make sense, is that Inigo is drunk and Andre the Giant like sobers him up and then explains all this to him. Yeah. That's how they frame it. Which doesn't really make sense because how would he know? Because what's he been up to? Except, because I think, okay, stick with me. It's not well explained, but it's the only thing that might make sense. Is when Inigo is drunk and outside the bar, just like totally inebriated, the Brute Squad comes to take him, and that's when Andre the Giant shows up.
Yes.
So like, are we meant to think that he is a part of the Brute Squad? Because then later when they go see Billy Crystal, like one of my favorite lines, he's like, I'm on the Brute Squad, and he's like, you are the Brute Squad, which is just a very fun, like, because he's so big, get it?
I
like
think I'm in the shadows, but I am the shadows.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's just that, but silly. But so like, I guess if he was on the Brute Squad, technically it would be possible for him to have like overheard other people involved in the castle life talking about it, but that's a big leap. Like, there is like no indication whatsoever as to how he got that information, other than if you want to like assume it was because he was a part of the Brute Squad. But like,
that's true.
That is a huge leap. I see what you mean. Like, how else would
well,
there's no explanation for it.
Because also, if he was on the Brute Squad the whole time, then he would have known that the 6-fingered guy worked, or like was a part of the kingdom.
Yeah.
And he would have told, like, Inigo probably should have known long before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless he only joined it after the stuff that happened with Wesley and coming back, which gives him a window of like 2 days to join the Brute Squad and get all this information. But that is very hand-wavy storytelling of just kind of like, we need them to know, so now they know.
Maybe it's explained really better in the book.
Maybe.
That was like, when you brought up the fact that he adapted this from his own book, that was like, okay, that makes sense that like there was going to be a mistake or two like that.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we congratulated Michael Crichton and this guy for being able to adapt their own book into like an hour and a half, 2-hour screenplay. So
totally.
That's like my one problem with the.
Yeah, I think it's a fair enough point. Yeah.
But I didn't really care because, again, this whole movie is a joke and it was just fun to watch, and I had a good time with it anyway.
Well, it's one of those things too where it's like, because the scene works anyway. You do just
character-wise?
Yeah, because it's funny because he's drunk and he's sobering him up and he's putting his head in the water. And, like, all of this is done in VO because it's the grandfather reading it. The grandfather is like, while he was sobering him up, he explained this to him.
Yeah.
Which, again, to Carol's point, maybe in the book, there is more explanation there of Andre the Giant explaining how he got that context. But because it's the grandfather reading in VO, it's just sort of like, we're going to rush through this part.
Yeah,
so
maybe it was like, it was too boring for a kid to hear.
Yeah, exactly. It could be something like that. That would probably make sense.
The kid probably has a bedtime, so you had to condense the story.
Oh, yeah, we gotta, yeah, for sure.
Good point.
Good. How do we feel about Prince Humperdinck? That's his name, right?
Yeah.
Prince Humperdinck?
Great name, yeah.
Fantastic name. Love the name. He really gives
Humpty
me...
Dumpty.
Humpty. He gives me Lord Farquaad vibes.
Yeah.
From Shrek.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
I have to believe they based
I think
off
so.
this guy.
I think so. It's too similar for them not to have.
He wants to marry the princess who doesn't want to marry him.
Yeah.
He's this weird little guy in like a red... I'm pretty sure he's wearing the exact same thing as Farquaad.
He is wearing red at one point, yeah.
But
I
don't think he's that little.
No. I mean, he's obviously not
he's
like
just like a skinny lanky.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like
he's not hilariously short, but
Yes.
he's just like
you know what I mean.
he's just like stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a figuratively little man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I absolutely got that vibe as well.
Yeah.
That was funny. But it had to have been an inspiration for
I think so.
2001 Shrek.
And also, like, Shrek in general, I feel like, is inspired by this movie in general. Because Shrek is a play on fairy tales.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I could totally see that.
Shrek is like an even more kids version of this.
Yes.
But yes, it's just not as overtly self-aware. In the same vein, though.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I want to go back a little bit. You guys were talking about, like, obviously Inigo had a lot of badass scenes in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And we were talking specifically about his fight at the end with the six-fingered man.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Christopher Guest, yeah, very good.
Yeah. What's he from, by the way? I've heard that name
Let me
before.
look it up, because I also recognize the name.
Okay, as you're doing
he's
that.
from this is Spinal Tap is one of his biggest things because literally half of his credits
also
are on IMDb were from various talk shows, but then when it said like the quote unquote character he was playing, it was the name of his character from This is Spinal Tap, and I didn't know that because I haven't seen that film. So it was like Christopher Guest, but he was on all of these talk shows under this different name, and I'm like, did he change his name? I'm so fucking confused. But I didn't really recognize him from anything else because I don't think I told the audience yet, but the research for this film just ended up being me looking up every single thing that every actor was in, basically. So I did look it up, and
I can't wait to hear
not
all
a lot
that.
jumped out at me from Christopher Guest.
He apparently is in A Few Good Men and Night at the Museum.
But
Night at the Museum. Who is
one
he
of the
in Night at the
sequels,
Museum?
not the original.
Yeah, Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian.
Who is he?
Let me see if I can figure it out, because I'm just on Google right now.
Was it a credited role?
Apparently.
I don't know.
No, he was a guest star.
He was a guest star.
And
It's
apparently he is or
Two-Face.
was married to Jamie Lee Curtis.
That makes sense because he was in the Freaky Friday reboot that she was in, her and Lindsay Lohan.
He was?
So,
Oh, I forgot about that movie.
yeah,
I never
that
forget
movie
about that
slaps.
movie.
I love that movie. It's so good.
I love
Dude,
that movie.
their song, that original song that they sing in that movie, absolutely slaps.
Right?
It's so good. It's so good. Like when they're okay, Freaky Friday moment here, but like when they are doing their performance at the end of the movie and they're like body swapped or whatever, and Lindsay Lohan is on stage, but like with the mom's soul,
Yeah,
I guess, I don't know,
backstage,
inside
yeah.
of her. And she has to like pretend to play because she doesn't know how to play, and then like the big guitar solo comes up, and then like Jamie Lee Curtis, who's actually Lindsay Lohan, is like doing the guitar solo off stage. That's like a Matrix, like Neo stopping the bullets moment of cinema. Like that moment absolutely slaps. Like we're gonna do Freaky Friday one day. That movie is.
Is
dope.
it similar to like the School of Rock finale?
Oh yeah. It's so hype. I absolutely love it. But continue with what you were saying.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, I was just gonna say. So like Wesley has a really cool moment too at the end where he's supposed to be like limp from being revived from having his soul sucked out of the suction cup torture machine.
Yeah.
But then when the prince comes in and he's like laying on the bed. And he's like, you know what? Actually, I don't even know why I'm laying here. I think I can move. And he gets up, and the prince immediately just like gives up.
Yeah.
Just from him standing up.
I love that.
That was cool.
It's so
I
cool.
think it's because he has kind of a long-winded speech leading up to it, which I thought was just him stalling to gain more strength.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I am a little confused as to why he immediately gave up. But I guess he's just a scary dude.
Well, and the prince is a little whiny idiot.
Yeah.
You know, he sucks.
And he still thinks he's the dread pirate Roberts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true.
I mean,
which
he is.
I mean, he
technically,
is, but
yeah.
like, yeah.
also, Batman Begins totally stole their idea for Ra's al Ghul from this movie.
Oh.
Dread Pirate, because
Is it just being a
like,
name?
yeah, because in Batman
also,
comics,
like,
obviously,
then so did James Bond with 007. Like, everyone does
but
that.
that's not confirmed. That's never been confirmed. That is a fan theory that I think partially exists because of this movie.
Well, it's not really a fan theory anymore. That 007 is just the title. That's
oh,
passed
well,
on.
007, but not like I mean, James Bond, the name, though.
Oh,
Okay,
sure.
yeah.
Because then, like... Cause
I
that
meant
was
like
how
the
they
James
connected,
Bond
like, all the-
franchise stole that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, because, yeah, Ra's al Ghul was always just literally immortal. Like, he just had a pit that he goes into that, like, keeps him young. But, and then in those movies, Christopher Nolan was like, that's stupid. So, how about instead we just do the Princess Bride thing where there's just always a Ra's al Ghul, which, like,
Wait,
is cool.
but I've always misunderstood then. I thought Liam Neeson was always Ra's al Ghul, but they just called the other guy Ra's al Ghul for protection.
Yeah, so the movie doesn't actually say one way or the other. Like, you could be right.
One.
I just always assume the Princess Bride one because A, I saw the Princess Bride so much, and B, I personally think that's cooler than just like, because then the idea of him being immortal
Dies with him.
Yeah, because then it's like, okay, so Liam Neeson was the real Ra's al Ghul, and like when he's, because he even says like, oh, but is Ra's al Ghul immortal or his method supernatural? Like, so I always took it to mean like there will always be another Ra's al Ghul.
Interesting.
But also like they never actually say, because that movie just doesn't want to confirm, which is fine. It's a great movie, so no problem there. But like, yeah.
Okay, so according to your theory, then he wasn't Ra's al Ghul until the other one died.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, I think he was just like the vice Ra's al Ghul, whatever.
That's how I saw it.
And then he
too.
became Ra's al Ghul. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. That's
Yeah.
Cool.
And then, because then it really is truly like every generation has a Ra's al Ghul.
That makes more sense. I've just never thought about it that way.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. They don't say. And then, but then you would have to think about Dark Knight Rises. Like, how does that factor in with Talia al Ghul? Like, would she take up the mantle then if he died, or would there still have to be? Because in comics, normally, like Ra's al Ghul, like you know what? Let's not get into it. We can talk about this
we've
forever.
talked
Let's just keep
about
talking
Batman
about Princess
enough
Bride.
in this whole show.
Oh my god, we talked about so much Batman. Like 2 weeks ago we talked about Batman. Last week we talked about Batman. We cannot talk about Batman
And
again.
also, like, we made a 5-hour episode about just the Dark Knight.
I'm so
Guys,
sorry.
I re-listened to our first episode, and we're talking about
bad,
how, like,
right?
because that episode's, like, not even an hour and a half long, and we're talking about how, yeah, we're aiming for every episode of this podcast be around an hour and a half. Like, if we ever get to 3 hours long, like, we need to end it. Like, that's insane.
Oh, we did say that. That's right.
And we really did get there within, like,
A
6
handful of
months.
episodes, yeah.
People like long form content, though. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay, and we're allowed to evolve.
I mean,
It's still
I mean,
feature
you can
length.
stop listening whenever you want.
yeah. Also, like, I like long form content, so whatever. If nothing else, I'll go back and listen to
Hey,
everything.
the Titanic is
done,
3
so-
hours and 15 minutes long, so that's technically feature length. So that's the limit we need to stay
Yeah,
under.
so is Schindler's List.
Oh, well, The Irishman is like 4 hours long,
Oh,
so
right.
technically,
Okay, that's our limit.
we don't even have to worry.
Irishman
Yeah.
is 4 hours long?
I think it's like 3.
That's why I never finished it.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Goodfellas,
yeah,
but they
yeah.
should have just made the second half of that movie its own movie. The first half is
Yeah.
completely superfluous, but whatever. Anyway, Christopher Guest. I pulled up what he was in
yeah.
Night at the Museum.
Oh, yes.
He played Ivan the Terrible.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it now.
Also, apparently, John Barenthal plays Al Capone.
Yep.
What the fuck?
In Night at the Museum?
Young Al Capone.
John Barenthal?
Yeah, Night at the
Whoa.
Museum 2.
I have a statue of John Barenthal on my desk as we record this.
Really? From what?
You want to see?
Like a statue of John Barenthal, like just the
Yeah, just
person.
the actor.
What is that
It's
from?
just-
The
It's a
Punisher. The
Punisher
Punisher
statue.
from Daredevil.
Okay.
Oh, I just noticed he's holding Daredevil's helmet.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because it's from Daredevil season 2,
Nice.
which was the best, or well, not the best Daredevil, but the best Punisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were
So
just talking about Christopher Guest.
Christopher Guest. Yeah. We're talking about sort of the badassery. Like, yeah, the ending is very badass with Wesley. I think Wesley is just in general very badass in this whole movie.
Yeah.
Like-
He's also got, speaking of Daredevil, he's got the Frank Miller Daredevil outfit, kind of.
Yeah, he kind of does.
The black and the
Yeah,
black
yeah,
mask
yeah,
with those
yeah,
eyes.
yeah. Yeah, I love it. It's just, it's nice. He's just the very classic like adventure hero, but it's, it's cool to see. It's cool to see that he's not an asshole, except for the part where he almost backhands Robin Wright. But
He
Yeah.
does.
Oh, speaking
it.
of Robin Wright.
but he doesn't. That's what matters. Yeah,
Speaking of Robin Wright, this is their first movie.
I know, which is crazy,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
but also like so
She's this big
talented.
star.
yeah, I
Yeah.
also didn't realize that she has been in other things since. So I was like, oh, okay.
This is the only
Literally,
thing.
it didn't
Oh, she's
even
been
because
in a
I
bunch.
semi recently watched Forrest Gump for the first time. So it also just didn't click to me that she was Jenny. And then I was doing my research, and I was like, oh shit, she really did become like famous after this.
Yeah, she was in House of Cards. She was in Blade Runner 2049.
Yep, she's in
Forrest Gump.
She's in all
Wonder
the Wonder Womans.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's right.
all 2 Wonder Woman.
Well, and like the Justice League, like that whole
and the Justice League.
universe.
Yeah. Anytime the Amazonians show up,
Yeah.
she's there. Yeah, which is a cool choice, I think, for her to be an Amazonian. Like, relating back to this movie, because in this movie she's more like princess damsel in distress,
Yeah.
and then like so to get to have her be like an Amazonian warrior is kind of like a fun little career trajectory thing.
Also, just
Cool.
like this is kind of a weird nitpicky thing, but while we're on the topic of her, it's immediately made clear her name is Buttercup. But
Yeah, Princess Buttercup.
for some reason, she's in all the credits just credited as quote unquote the Princess Bride. And I don't know why they don't call her Buttercup.
I noticed that.
Interesting.
Well, because, and
I didn't
also
notice.
I was reading and found out that in the book they specified that the prince could only marry a princess, so in order to marry her, he made her the princess of a fake town, or just like an imaginary town. So that's when she became a princess in order to be able to marry him. But she is not actually a princess in any way, and she is just Buttercup. Until we see her 5 years later.
The book gets into the politics of it all.
I know, right? We're missing a lot. Maybe we should read it.
Feudalism.
Feudalism.
Yeah, I don't know why she's not credited as Buttercup.
I don't know.
I mean, probably just because the movie's called The Princess Bride. So
Yeah.
There's the Princess Bride.
Yeah.
That kind of feels like a studio note to me. I don't like, not that this movie seems like an anti-studio note movie where they were like, we don't understand what you're doing, so just go ahead and lose us money. That's fine. We're just gonna stay out of this one. But like I can 100% imagine some idiot watching this movie and be like, but who's the Princess Bride? Who's the and they're like, oh my fucking god, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah.
Who else would be the Princess Bride? She's like the only
It's
female
the only
character.
woman in the whole movie, basically.
But like, I mean, look, let me put it to you this way. Someone thought that Joker scene in the Batman was a good idea.
Oh my God.
So like, I don't trust
Marco,
anyone.
we're done talking about that.
I can't. Why is that scene in the movie? Fuck my life. Okay, Carol, do you want to hit us up with some facts about various performances these actors have gone on to do?
Yeah, I do. I have a bunch. Okay, first of all, and my favorite, Rob Reiner played Jess's dad in New Girl.
Yay!
Because I know we've
we
talked
love
about
Rob Reiner.
many times the stuff he's like directed and whatnot, and so I was like, okay, I recognize him from that. But then I was on Wikipedia and I saw his picture, and I'm like, no, like I recognize him, and I had to figure out why, and it's because of New Girl. So mad respect.
He is so funny.
I know.
Like, he's such a funny comedic actor, and also in. Do you have any more Rob Reiner facts, or
That's the only one. I only noted down selfishly the ones I knew.
Okay.
And I
Rob
also
Reiner
skipped
also-
any voice work, which is a lot of these guys' career for like
voice
all of
acting.
them.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Rob Reiner also plays Leonardo DiCaprio's dad in The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yes.
He is incredibly funny in that, and then he was also in, I think, All in the Family, right?
Yeah,
That was
I think that's where he like kind of started.
Yeah, he was just like a very young sitcom actor
Yeah.
in that, and then went on to do other things.
He was also in Sleepless in Seattle.
Oh, was he really?
That's why I thought he directed it. He was just in it.
Oh, I didn't even.
Who did he
notice that.
play in Sleepless in Seattle?
I'm
Was he
pretty
the
sure
voice or something.
No, he's one of Tom Hanks' friends, I think.
Oh, let me.
I'm like 99% sure. I also
haven't-
haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Yeah,
but
same.
Let's check right
I
now.
saw it a couple months
Big
ago,
months,
but
so.
I also wasn't at the time thinking of Rob Reiner, so that doesn't help.
Victor Garber's in this movie. What the fuck?
Wait, am I wrong? No,
No,
there he
yeah,
is. I was
Jay.
like,
He plays Jay.
Good for him.
Oh my-
That means someone does something.
Niles
Holy
is
shit.
in it.
Apparently.
God damn.
Who?
Wow, I need to rewatch this movie. Niles from Frasier.
David Hyde Pierce.
Ah.
Yeah. Oh, this guy from Frasier. the
And
station
Everybody
chief?
Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow,
it's
Francis
interesting because I
Conroy.
realized that a lot of these people have been in Frasier and Seinfeld, just like for one-offs.
Hell yeah.
A lot of them.
But like everyone was in Seinfeld at some point.
Yeah,
That's true.
literally. A bunch of them have done voice work for the same thing. Like half of the fun facts are about like these people have loosely both been in like the DCEU, and like they're trying to link them together.
And like everyone's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now. Like, who isn't?
Yeah, it's true. Like we've talked about, it's basically impossible to find a
Like-
movie without an MCU connection.
Like, I'll be reading IMDb trivia facts sometimes, and it's like, did you know this person and this person are both in the MCU? It's like, that's not even a surprise anymore.
I like, that's just a movie
I know.
now.
Any
Yeah.
movie has at least 2 characters who have both been in the MCU.
Dude, even DC movies will have characters that were in the MCU.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Jeffrey Wright was in the MCU, and Andy Serkis was in the MCU.
Wait, Jeffrey Wright. Who is
He does the voice of the Watcher on What If,
Oh, okay.
which is technically MCU. It's technically
yeah, that
MCU.
is
Yeah,
canon.
a lot of
And Andy
a lot of the
Serkis
fun
is
facts are
the one thing I haven't
technicalities
seen.
like that too.
Exactly. Carol, before you proceed, may I just suggest that we absolutely have to get Dan to watch New Girl and do
Oh
a
my
New
God,
Girl
yes.
episode on the pod.
I
It
still
is-
want to do a
Dan, you
Schitt's
will
Creek
love
episode,
it.
so let him finish
me
that
too.
first.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's only fair because you guys are eventually gonna watch Lost.
Yeah.
Which
Yes,
I can't
we will
wait. By the way,
eventually.
I can't wait till.
Oh
Oh my
you
god,
guys-
I can't
I
wait,
forgot
can't
to
wait.
tell you, but on a podcast I was listening to, someone was going to talk about Lost, and they're like, spoiler alert for Lost, even though it's been 20 years, and I took my headphones off and just like let them talk for like 30 seconds and then put them back on because I didn't want it to be spoiled for me.
That's hilarious.
So
That's-
I'm
We're
still
gonna get
good. Although
That's my most.
a little bit might have been spoiled by the 40-year-old virgin, but I'm unsure. No, not the 40-year-old virgin. This is 40. Because
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen that either.
oh, you guys are missing out. But
I've heard it's
Judd
really good.
Apatow's
The Paul Rudd
daughter
movie?
Yeah.
plays the child of Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann in that movie, and she's obsessed with Lost. That's like her whole
Okay.
plot line.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot to unpack, so I wouldn't worry too much
Okay,
about it.
cool,
It's
cool,
probably like a fraction of a percent.
Yeah, I know. I don't think it was that much, but I'm still a little upset.
Let me just say that's my most anticipated episode as of right now.
Oh, damn. Okay. I'm
Gotta
excited.
get to
I'm
it,
just
then.
excited to see what this is. Yeah.
Yeah, where was I? Okay, Mandy Patinkin.
Yes.
That name. For some reason, I was like, this man, I've probably seen him in hundreds of things. Mandy Patinkin. I've heard that name so many times. I didn't recognize anything. I mean, he was in Criminal Minds, but that's like kind of all I recognized him from. And I was
I haven't seen him in
very
anything
surprised.
else.
He
Like,
was
right?
in. Oh my god. He was in Criminal Minds. I know he was also in that other really famous show. I'm just trying to.
But
pull it
that
up.
we would have
Homeland.
watched.
Oh.
Yeah, I've never
Homeland.
seen Homeland,
Yeah.
but I know it's supposed to be amazing. But yeah, the only thing I have seen him in otherwise is Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
So.
And then you know what I was surprised about? The Carrie Elwes guy, or whatever, however you say his name. Because
Carrie
he's like
Elwes, yeah.
so conventionally attractive, and in this movie like so expressive, I was probably like, I think he's like been in hundreds of things. And he has, but I guess now that he's older, he just doesn't look like himself at all. Because I didn't notice that he was the mayor of the town in Stranger Things.
Yes.
What? Is he
Yeah,
actually?
Not from season 1 though. I think it was like
Yeah,
starting
yeah.
in season 2. or
But he's
something.
also
Wow, I don't remember that at
in
all.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Marco. Like
Carol, what the
multiple
fuck?
episodes.
Where?
Like a lot of them.
Who is he?
I wrote down the name of the character, but I don't remember who it
is
is. Gavin Hawk. I didn't remember who that character was off the top of my head, but it was
Gavin
like
Hawk.
several
What the fuck is
episodes
this?
of the show.
Gavin Hawk, Marvelous Miss Maisel, yeah.
And also, I realized that the only reason I visually recognized Wallace Shawn is because he was also in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yes, I do
Yeah,
remember Wallace
yeah.
Shawn
So
from
that was that one connection with me and him.
Oh, this was like during the whole season 3 arc where she's managing
Susie.
the person from Glee. Yeah, Susie's managing the lady from Glee who's in a play with like real actors or
Oh,
whatever. Right?
was that her fellow actor, the one she slept with?
Yes, yes.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
That makes sense. That makes sense. You know what? I think I did. Yeah. I think I do remember.
Yeah, but
him
even now,
being in
looking
that,
at
but-
pictures of him, like, currently on IMDb, I was like, I would not have guessed that was the same person.
Yeah, he does look very different.
But also, just another tangent, because we already discussed at the beginning of this episode, there's not much to talk about other than everything's great. So we can just talk about whatever. But Dan...
Sure. I'm sure we're going to get comments. We're going to get lots of angry comments being like, I came here
About
for
this
serious
movie?
Princess Bride criticism, and all that I heard was fucking Humpty Dumpty and Batman and Carrie Elwes being in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Sorry.
I've never in my mind pictured like like a crossover between information about Batman and Humpty Dumpty before.
Welcome to my life, man. That's how my brain works.
Okay.
Anyway, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, so after we watched this film, or I don't know if it was actually after, I just made that assumption. But Dan, you asked us if we'd seen Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Oh yes.
Which Carrie Elwes was also the lead in.
Robin Hood himself.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it, but I did.
None of us have.
Oh, okay, nice. We should watch it.
I haven't even seen it.
Because I was gonna say it was made by Mel Brooks, and Mel Brooks also made 2 movies that as a kid I was absolutely obsessed with, Young Frankenstein and Dracula Dead and Loving It. Those movies, I haven't seen them since I was a kid, so maybe they didn't age well and I hate them now. I don't know. I doubt it. I've been meaning to rewatch them, but I couldn't find them anywhere. But as a kid, they made me cackle. So I feel like I would also like Robin Hood Men in Tights because it probably is similarly humorous because it's all like spoofs on classic characters.
Yeah, Wallace Shawn, since that's the last Princess Bride thing we were actually talking about, is obviously, as we mentioned in Toy Story, he's Rex.
And he's in Marriage Story.
Another
story.
He's in a lot of stories. He's also in Young Sheldon.
Yeah, I saw that.
Very random.
I didn't note it down.
Yes. He plays like a crazy physicist. I've like walked by the TV while it's on and been like, why is Wallace Shawn stooping this low?
Hey, if he can get that bank, why not?
That's what I mean, take the paycheck, Wallace.
Walked by the TV.
You know what I mean? Where I'm walking by and I'm like, I'm not staying here to see this. He's also in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
He plays the Ferengi Grand Nagus, which I'm not going to get into with you guys. Yeah, to people like me, Dan. Only to people like me. Anyway, yeah, so he's in that as well. Just in a lot of stuff, you know. Wallace Shawn, fantastic. Put him in everything. He's so good.
He's very much a Jeff Goldblum, like...
Yes.
He is himself in everything.
Oh, I would love to see Wallace Shawn as Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park. Just give me an alternate cut of that movie.
Oh my god. Yeah, so that was kind of like it for people being in things. Did you guys watch Ella Enchanted?
Yes, I've seen it.
Carrie Elwes is also in that.
I haven't watched it.
As someone.
That makes sense.
But
is that the one with Amy Adams?
No,
that's Enchanted.
Yes.
Oh,
this is with Anne Hathaway.
Ella, yes,
and she has to do.
But they came out around the same
told.
time.
I think Ella Enchanted is older.
I think by like a few years, but it's like the same general early 2000s era.
Yeah.
Carol, they're making an Enchanted 2. Did you know that? Have we talked about this? I think
Ella
you and I specifically have talked about
Enchanted
this.
2?
No.
Okay.
Enchanted 2.
Is Amy Adams coming back?
Yeah, Amy Adams and Patrick Dempsey are coming back. It's called Disenchanted.
There's a show called that. Or no, that's Disenchantment.
Oh. Yeah, this is Disenchanted.
Huh.
And it's gonna
so they're
be
going to be
movie.
old and disenchanted.
I hope. I don't know. That movie's fun.
Fed up with
Amy
life.
Adams has never been.
I haven't seen it since it came out.
Yeah.
But I remember liking it, obviously, because it's like a musical and like silly.
Funny enough, I think it has, again, the same vibes of this, almost, as like poking fun at fairy tale, like the fairy tale
it
genre.
takes place in like a modern New York City.
It's
right?
literally like this fairy tale character that shows up in the real world and is trying to like be a fairy tale character, and everyone's like, can you stop? Like, this is too much. So yeah.
Oh wait, 2 more people who I have notes on what they were in. Billy Crystal, obviously When Harry Met Sally, but also he was Mike Wazowski in Monsters Inc. Gotta love that. That's the one animated thing I noted down because I've seen it.
Yeah, because like how could you not?
I mean, it's so good. Yeah.
And then Carol Kane, his like wife, who was
I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, she was in The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah.
But when I first saw that show, I was like, I recognize her from something before this, and I couldn't put my finger on what. Have you guys seen the movie The Pacifier with Vin Diesel?
Yes.
No.
You never watched that movie?
No.
It's really good, actually.
Who was she in that?
It's like funny. But she plays a character named Helga in it, and I think that's where I recognized her from. And she was also in Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen with Lindsay Lohan. So I think I probably recognized her from just like
Lindsay
little
Lohan
bit
theme.
parts in all these movies I watched as a kid. So when she was in Kimmy Schmidt, I was like, ah, yes, this lady.
She's really funny.
Yeah, they both have like Billy Crystal and Carol Kane both just have very like recognizable voices where like you can't miss them if they're in something.
For sure.
I thought at first it was gonna be what's her name? Who plays Jessie in Toy Story?
Joan Cusack?
Yes.
Yeah.
It really sounded like her.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
But I knew when the credits came and I saw her name, I didn't recognize her from anything, but I knew, like, I figured because they got Billy Crystal for his role, she would also be like some legendary star that people know, like just that they could put in a bunch of makeup and have like a little cameo.
Yeah,
For sure.
is.
For sure. It is kind of surprising, but yeah. We haven't really talked about that scene at all, but I do love that whole scene.
The Billy Crystal scene.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And it so leans into the fantasy trope. And like one of the notes I wrote down was when he's like, oh, you're lucky, like he's only mostly dead. He's like, if he's dead, I can't do anything, but he's mostly dead. That means he's a little bit alive. And that reminded me so much. I'm so sorry. I'm like, in the 90s when they did like the Death of Superman comic. But then like that comic ends with it being like, no, he wasn't dead. He was just in a healing coma. And then he just came back to life. And like when he was saying like, yeah, he's only mostly dead, I was like, oh my fuck. Like this is just that. But it's obviously like played for humorous effect here and not meant to be a serious piece of fiction. So it's okay.
Well, speaking again of Shrek, it also reminded me of the Merlin scene in Shrek.
Yes. But better
Yes.
because we hate Shrek.
But better,
it
yeah.
Sucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not as bad as the next Shrek movie.
Yeah.
God, what was that movie? Remember when the lighting was all weird, but it's animated, so they had full control of it?
Yeah,
And it was like
a purposeful choice.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be like real or something, like serious.
It's supposed to be Christopher Nolan Shrek.
Yeah, fuck. Yeah, because there's the time travel and like it was. Oh my god, what a stupid movie! I can't believe. Like,
I never want to watch that movie again.
I don't think I
blocked
could.
it out of my mind. Yeah, no, I genuinely couldn't. No, it's
It
so
makes
bad.
me uncomfortable.
I don't even think I fully paid attention when I watched it for this. Like my brain wouldn't let me.
Well, you remember? Sorry, I know we already had a Shrek episode, but remember in that episode, like
Shrek Part 2.
Yeah,
40% of that episode was on Shrek 1. The next 40 was Shrek 2, and then like 15% was Shrek 3. 5% of our discussion was Shrek
we
4.
literally just did not want to talk about it.
Okay, but I do have some more.
What else about?
Sorry, what were you gonna say, Dan?
Oh, okay. No, I was just gonna say what else about this movie.
Yeah, I have more fun facts that isn't just what were these people in. Like there were actual facts about this film. Obviously, it's iconic.
Go for it.
So the reason this movie was made is because Rob Reiner was given this book by his dad, Carl Reiner, who is like an iconic stand-up comedian. Fun fact, he was featured on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld. And that's where I know him from because his stand-up comedy was a little bit before our time. And unfortunately, he died in June 2020. But also in...
Wait, do you watch Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee?
Yeah.
Isn't it good?
Yeah, I watched
It's
all
such a
the
quaint little
episodes.
show.
I actually
It is
really
fun.
enjoy
It's
it.
very fun.
Oh, you watched it too?
Yeah.
Nice.
But in June 2020, they also did, like, early pandemic, you know, all the celebrities were, like, doing, like, reads of screenplays for stuff they'd been in, et cetera, et cetera. They did the home movie of The Princess Bride that was released on Quibi. I don't know if you guys remember.
Oh no, I do
seeing any of
remember
this.
Quibi.
Yeah, so Quibi, R.I.P. Quibi, Moment of Silence.
No, not R.I.P. Quibi.
But yeah, so they made this version where everyone was reading the script for The Princess Bride, but it was like a bunch of celebrities who like each read like one sentence at a time. Like every role is split between so many people. Like listen to this cast. So the grandson was played by... Okay, no, that's not a good one to read because not all the names are famous. But the grandfather was played by Rob Reiner, J.K. Simmons, Sarah Silverman, Adam Sandler, and Carl Reiner. Actually, that was the last thing Carl Reiner was in before he died, because he died a few days after it was filmed.
Oh,
damn.
Yeah, he was like really, really old.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like Wesley was played by Chris Pine, Common, Sam Rockwell, Neil Patrick Harris, Sophie Turner, David Spade, John Hamm, Caitlin Denver, Brandon Ruth. I don't know who that is.
Superman.
Oh, really?
2006 Superman.
Yeah, like not Henry Cavill Superman.
But yeah, Courtney Ford, Tommy Dewey, Taika Waititi, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Jack Black, Lucas Hedges, Paul Rudd, and Carrie Elwes. But that was just reused footage from the film. Like, yeah, it was so bizarre. I remember seeing like a trailer for it because it was just like them filming it like on tablets, like in their backyards. Like, it was so random and so low budget. It was like when people were all singing like Imagine together. It was in that
I was just gonna say, do you remember you remember that era of the pandemic when everyone was like, let me just film something from home?
Yeah.
Like,
so it's kind of made like that. But it's wild. I kind of wish I could watch it. Now that Quibi doesn't exist, I'm sure it still must be somewhere, because I would just be intrigued to see how it is with all of these people reading a line or two. Because it is like crazy, crazy people were involved. Seth Rogen was Miracle Max. You know, I love Seth Rogen.
That's fine.
Yeah, so I won't read the whole thing, but it was wild. And then they also, separately in September 2020, did a virtual live read-through of the script to raise money for the Democratic Party of Wisconsin to get, obviously, Trump heads out of office back at that time. And Finn Wolfhard played the grandson. Most of the rest of the cast was the same. But, yeah.
Cool.
That was one difference.
That reminds me of, I don't know if you guys remember, like, I think it was the early 2010s on YouTube when they made that, like, fan-made RoboCop movie. Do you guys remember this at all? But basically, anyone on YouTube that had a decent-sized channel that did anything, like, movie or pop culture or gaming related, they made everyone recreate one scene from RoboCop, and then they edited it all together. And so it's this feature-length version of RoboCop where every scene is just a different YouTube channel recreating a scene from the movie.
It's so funny that we're talking about this on this episode, because my final project for one of my classes in university was the whole class had to recreate a 20-minute stretch of film, like in their own way. Like, you could animate it, you could act it out, you could do a diorama or something. Yeah. And the movie we chose was The Princess Bride.
Really?
Oh.
Yes. That's funny.
So I did like a comic version. Like, we were given like 2 or 3 seconds each, and we had like 10 of those.
Yeah.
So there were like 10 instances of 2 or 3 seconds that we had to animate or act, whatever.
Nice.
So I did 10 like comic version, or almost like animatics.
Yeah.
Because we paired them with the audio. We just had to do the visuals.
That's sick.
Yeah. So what a coincidence.
What a coincidence that all this is coming, on this one episode.
Full circle.
It all ties together.
But yeah, also it took a really long time to make this movie. It was like stuck in just limbo for like 20 years. And Goldman's first choice to play, was it Fezzik? Was that who Andre the Giant was, or was it the other one? Their name?
Yeah.
So the top choice to play Fezzik was Andre the Giant, but when they initially wanted to make the film, they're like, he's too busy wrestling, like, absolutely not. Like, he's getting $5 million to do this one fight in Tokyo. Like, he's never going to give that up. And so then the second choice was Arnold Schwarzenegger, but then the film didn't end up being made at that time. And so then by the time it did get made, Arnold Schwarzenegger was too expensive, and there was absolutely no way they could get him involved. And Andre the Giant's schedule opened up, so it worked out.
Thank God.
I can't imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Me either.
Oh, it would be so bad. It would be so bad.
Well, because, like, even thinking about it, the script as it is didn't have a lot of words. So, like, I guess you don't need to be a talented actor to be in that role anyway.
No, but, like, I feel like you have to have that, like, gentle giant personality. Like, just be very likable. And, like, he's not. Like, he is such a dude, bro. Like, even outside of being the Terminator, like, he's just such a dude, bro, and such an ass. Like,
but do you think if he was in this movie, they would have realized he's a bad actor and not cast him in Batman and Robin.
Yeah, but then I don't think it would have made that a better movie. I think that movie would have been bad regardless.
True.
I'd rather have this movie at least be good than make that one a little bit less
better.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair.
I know there's also another fact that I have, but I forget the name of the person who it's about. So we're going to play a little game. Who is the actor from... Are you laughing, Marco? Who is the actor from, I think, Taken? Who, like, wanted to kill black people at some point?
Liam Neeson?
Yeah. He auditioned to play Fezzik, but he was essentially
Really?
laughed out of the room because they were like, you're too short, bro. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't see him as that. That's weird that he auditioned for that.
Yeah, but I just thought it was funny. And Uma Thurman, Meg Ryan, and Courtney Cox, and Whoopi Goldberg all auditioned for the role of Buttercup. Whoopi Goldberg really wanted it,
Oh.
but it just didn't work out.
I'm glad Robin Wright got
Yeah.
it. She's really good.
Yeah,
First-time actress.
definitely.
Yeah. And she's had an awesome career, so.
But I'm kind
That's
of
good.
surprised that, I mean, I guess because they wanted her to be British, but I'm surprised that, like, Uma Thurman or Meg Ryan couldn't,
True.
didn't do well enough in the audition, or it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, also,
But funny enough, they all, 2 years later, Meg Ryan has When Harry Met Sally, and then
with Rob
a few years after that, Uma Thurman has Pulp Fiction. So,
They're
it really
fine,
does
yeah.
end up working out for all of them. They all
And
go on
Batman
to
and
do,
Robin.
oh my god, Batman and Robin. How is there so many... And then when you were talking about Liam Neeson, that ties to Batman Begins.
Yeah.
Why is there so much goddamn Batman content in this episode?
well, isn't Arnold Schwarzenegger also in Batman? You didn't even mention that.
Yeah, Batman and Robin. I
That's-
can't.
Well, no, that's what we were talking about with him and Batman and Robin. That's,
Yeah, because
Ah.
if he did this, he might have not done that, and then that movie wouldn't have been as bad. But it
Still
probably
would've been
still would have been bad. So it's like,
Fair.
what if him and Uma Thurman did this?
and both of them. Still,
then
the
both
story,
of-
the story
still.
sucks ass.
Still, George Clooney still would have been Batman. So it really, and Chris O'Donnell would
the
have been
bat nips,
yeah, a 60-year-old
bat
Robin.
Oh my god.
Wait, what?
I mean, he's like a 30-year-old man, and he's
Oh.
like, I'm Robin, and I'm like, dude, go buy a house. Like, why are you living with Bruce Wayne? Like, fucking weirdo.
Oh yeah, why was he adopted?
Yeah, I don't understand. He's 25 years old, and he's like, my parents died, and Bruce is like, I will adopt you. Like, dude, you're an adult. Get a job. Go find an apartment. I don't know. It's weird.
I have more facts.
One quick
Yes.
note.
No, do your note
sorry.
first.
I just want to say we were talking about accents, and I like how Wallace Shawn is the only person in this movie who's not even bothered. He's just doing his Wallace Shawn voice.
Yeah, he
I
has
mean, he's
to.
also
he's
supposed
funny.
to be Sicilian, so I think they're like, whatever. Just
Yes.
be you.
He is. That is true. It's funny you say that because I did write that line down, and we'll get to it later when I go through my random
Yeah.
lines I wrote down. But he's not. He is literally just Wallace Shawn. Yeah.
Okay, also, Andre the Giant's hand was so big that whenever Robin Wright was cold, he just put his hand on her head and it covered her whole head and kept her warm. I feel like having Andre the Giant on this film led to a lot of fun, shenanigans. Because
I would think so.
he also needed to be ATV'd around to all the shooting locations, and for some reason, he always really wanted to get Carrie Elwes to drive it. And one day he agreed, and when he was driving it, he hit a patch of rocks as he was shifting gears. So then his foot got stuck between a rock and the pedal, and he broke his toe, and they tried to hide it from Rob Reiner, but eventually, obviously they noticed he was limping, and you can notice it right before they somersault down the mountain because he doesn't put weight on his one foot, and then a stunt person jumps in, obviously. But I just thought that was
Why
funny.
did he have to be ATV'd around the set?
He just got back surgery right before this, so his back hurt a
Oh.
lot, and
Oh, that's right.
he
That's
couldn't
right.
even carry anyone. In the scene where Carrie Elwes, whatever, is on his back, he's actually stepping on a step stool the whole time, so he's not actually hanging off of
Oh.
him. And when he catches the princess at the end, she's actually held up by she's suspended by strings and shit.
That's funny. I do remember, now that you bring that up, in reading that thing
Yeah.
William Goldman wrote, that he was talking about the irony of that, of getting this big
Yeah.
strong wrestler, but he actually couldn't do a lot of physical stuff because of the condition his body was in or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Must be tough to be so giant, because he died pretty early too, which sucks. He was like in his
Yeah.
early
Dead?
40s.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like just literally like being that size takes a huge toll on the body, and so it like genuinely makes it significantly harder.
Yeah. Well, because it just like
Like
takes more energy to
exactly
be alive. And it already takes
like for
so
your heart.
much, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I have not stopped yawning during this whole episode.
Oh my god. What is this episode? This episode is so derailed. I feel so bad for anyone listening to this.
Yeah, I think that's all of my fun facts, or like at least the fun ones. I have other facts,
okay.
but they're
Great.
not as fun, so I'm gonna skip them.
All right, I'm gonna pull up my miscellaneous
Okay.
notes, and if you guys have any miscellaneous notes.
I mean, you know, I always do.
Oh, okay. When Inigo is talking to Carrie Elways the first time, and he like gives the whole spiel about like his father and his like origin story and what he wants to do, and then he's like, well, why are you working with this other guy? And he's like, oh, because there's not a lot of money in Revenge. Like, this just pays the bills. It's as if it's like a day job. Like, this is just my day job. I just thought that was again, that's a very adult thing that like you would never notice as a kid, but as an adult it's very funny. Yeah, and then I just wrote down basically the entire scene of the Battle of Wits, because that is like maybe like some of my favorite dialogue ever. So I like when he's like, you ever hear of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, morons. It's just like, that is like the most confident a person that you could ever be. One that my sister and I quote all the time is when Carrie Elways is like, so have you made your decision yet? And then he goes, not remotely. My sister and I say not remotely like so much, and it bothers everyone in the house because no one gets it. They're all like, why are you saying that? At one point, Carrie Elways says, truly you have a dizzying intellect, which is such a dick thing to say. And then I think my favorite, and this is another quotable one for my sister and I, which is that you've fallen victim to one of the classic blunders. Never mess with a Sicilian when death is on the line. You've fallen victim to one of the classic blunders has the same energy to me as like I've solved over 200 mysteries. Like just this I don't know, just the arrogance of it, like the stupidity. Like nobody talks like that. Like you've fallen victim to one of the classic blunders. Like who would say that? I love it. I love it so much.
You've been referencing the mysteries a lot lately.
Yeah, it came up earlier today too in private because, well, hey, when people want to act like children, I mean, that is a very childish thing to say. Yeah. And then I just wrote down Billy fucking Crystal. And the line I wrote was, beat it or I'll call the Brute Squad. I'm on the Brute Squad. You are the Brute Squad. I just thought that was a very fun exchange between the two of them.
I'm surprised you didn't write one of my favorite parts of that Battle of Wits scene is when they're saying, yeah, it's Iocane. Iocane comes from Australia, and Australia is full of criminals. Like, that's part of his logic.
Yes.
So fucking funny.
Dude, if I started writing down his logic, I would have had to write everything. Because he's like, at one point he's like, you've beaten my Spaniard, so clearly you studied, which means you would know man is mortal, so you would put the poison as far away from you as possible. And I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, he's so...
This is like Sherlock level deduction.
That's the thing. Like, going back to that is that this is Sherlock deduction, but like if done stupidly, which is great. It always gets a laugh out of me.
I also like when the man in black beats up Andre the Giant, and when he's like passed out, he's like, okay, like dream of large women.
Yeah. That's a good line. Yeah.
I also have a note from like the very, very beginning when we're first introduced to like the princess and the stable boy or whatever they call him. And they fall in love just by saying as you wish and looking at each other. And I said, this is the definition of pretty privilege. They don't have to have one conversation and they're madly in love and have a soulmate for life.
Yeah, that intro was so horny.
Yeah, it is very horny. Yeah, you're right.
And also I just have another silly note that says, oh, the killing machine is powered by water. We love green energy.
Oh, that killing machine is also hilarious.
So I don't understand how that worked.
Sucks life, Dan. What do you mean?
His explanation is, you know, like suction mechanisms. Well, this sucks your life. Like that is literally his explanation.
So it's just
of
like
it.
it's a supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a parody of like.
I wasn't sure if he was like if he literally meant that, or if it was some sort of like torture that like figuratively.
No,
I think it literally.
No, I think it
years.
literally
Yeah.
is supposed to be sucking his life soul.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I have like.
I do like.
No, sorry, you go, Dan. I'm gonna.
I was just gonna say, I like when the prince is like frustrated. He comes in and flings the thing up to like the maximum capacity.
Yeah, to 50 years.
And even the executioner is like, no, don't go that high.
Well, because he sets it up earlier. He's like, yeah, I've never really gone before, like, beyond 5 years myself. Let's up to 50. And he's like, no.
I also like that the
also,
whole premise is that he's like writing a paper on this, like a scientific article.
Yes. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm taking notes on this. No, I love the, I don't know what you call him. I guess the assistant, like the lab assistant guy
Oh,
who
the
comes
albino.
in and he's like, yeah, the albino. And he's like, the bit of the spat. And then he just coughs and he's like, yeah, this is it. It's pretty fucked up. Hilarious. What a
and
great
the
joke.
priest?
Yeah. Oh my god, the priest. Oh.
Marriage.
You want to talk about like a pop culture?
Yeah.
That
is
is
like,
what
did
I was
that
gonna
in The
mention
Office
next.
Before I remembered that was in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
good.
Exactly. It's so funny.
Okay, and then I just had one question because I was looking through my notes and I see that at one point it was when they picked up the man in black after he was paralyzed and like they were helping him come back to life. He's like, oh, if only we had a Holocaust cloak. What is a Holocaust cloak?
Yeah.
And then Andre the Giant ended up
like-
wearing it and they set it on fire. But I still don't like. It was just a cloak, no?
It looked like it, yeah.
Okay.
It
Just
was
wondering
just
if
a
you
black
guys knew.
cloak.
That was it.
I have no. I don't know. That must have been some like older vernacular or
Yeah.
something because I don't know what it means. Yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Great. We've come to zero conclusions.
Thanks, guys, for this really enlightening
Fantastic.
conversation. I think we have another
Yeah,
great
fantastic.
episode of the podcast.
I will just say, to actually like talk about the movie a little bit because we've barely done that this episode. Like I was joking earlier about the Freaky Friday scene that's equivalent to The Matrix. Like, in terms of like that type of movie moment, though, I do think the final fight with Inigo and the Six-Fingered Man,
Yeah.
is like that level of hype
Yeah.
for me. When he's like all hope is lost and he's like just bleeding out, and then it's just like fuck it, and he keeps like saying the thing to himself to like give him the thing to give him the energy to push through, and then ends up winning the fight, and it's just a nice little exchange of dialogue where he's like, offer me gold, offer me anything I want, anything you want and more. Well, I want my father back, you son of a bitch, and then kills him. Great, fantastic,
And
what a
I do-
great moment.
I wish that he took the thing.
I was going to say
Sorry.
he hurts him in the exact same way that
Yes.
he hurt him. All the he's and hims, you know what I mean. They did the same
on
thing
the
to
face.
each other.
Yeah, they do the scar on the face.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but even all the other
I
stabbings
do wish-
apparently were like one for ones.
like in
Oh.
the
Yeah,
shoulder and all that stuff. Yeah.
Cool. I wish though he took the knife that he was stabbed with and stabbed him with that
Oh, that would have been cool.
instead of just throwing it away.
Yeah, that would have been fantastic.
But yeah, I like that he gets stabbed and he says fuck it and gets up anyway, and then
It's great. It's a nice little superhero type moment. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that one actually gives me like Matrix vibes of just like coming back at the end and doing the thing to win, and it's very badass.
Yeah, that's my second favorite scene, and my favorite scene in this movie is the sword fight on the
Yeah.
cliff.
Yes.
I like that they're so polite with each other,
Me too.
and they're just like having a conversation, him
Yeah.
and Wesley, before they even start fighting.
They genuinely have respect for each other.
Yeah, and even when Wesley defeats him, he's like, I'd sooner destroy a stained glass window before killing you. I have so
Yeah.
much respect for you.
It's so cool. And I love when they're fighting and then he's like, oh, like, you're pretty good. And I would be worried except for the fact that I'm not left-handed.
and then the same.
And then the same thing. I love it. It's so much fun. It's
And
so
they
fun.
both
Yeah.
learned how to sword fight right and left-handed so they could do the whole scene.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, you mean in
Yeah,
real
yeah,
life,
yeah.
like the actors?
That fact was repeated in the IMDb trivia like 10 times, just with slightly different wording. So, in
we
case
need
you
you guys
doubted
to know
it,
that they learned,
Yeah.
how to
learned
do
it
this.
all
Yeah.
themselves. The stunt doubles were only used when they had to somersault, but everything else was
Nice.
them.
Nice.
But yeah, that scene was just so good. Like the fencing choreography, and the conversation at the beginning where that's where we learn about his father,
Mm-hmm.
and his sword is really badass. Too.
Yeah, sister, obviously, yeah. Oh, I love it. I just love his whole character. It's so good. And then even, like, the little ending piece where he's like, I thought about revenge my whole life, and, like, now that I got it, I have no idea what I want to do. And that's when we get everything comes full circle. Leslie's like, I mean, I don't want to be the Dread Pirate Roberts, so like.
Well, I like that line too. It's funny where he's like, "Have you ever considered piracy?"
Yeah, you literally have you considered piracy?
How is that not a meme?
You mean like with like pirating things on the internet? Yeah, you're right. We should start that. We should start that meme.
Is that going to be our claim to fame, guys?
Yes. FLP copyright. We're copywriting a scene from a movie that already exists and is in copyright, but yeah.
Also, there's copyright means nothing for memes.
No, of course not. Yeah. Which is also like, okay, this is the last tangent of the episode, but it pertains to that, and then we can just end the episode. Which is to say this: in the show Pam and Tommy, that's currently on Disney Plus in Canada,
with the talking penis.
The plot of yes, the plot of that show obviously is about the leak of Pam Anderson and Tommy Lee's sex tape, and how that happened, if you guys aren't aware, because it's kind of fascinating, is that Seth Rogen's character in that is a carpenter who basically Tommy Lee fucked over, so he broke into his house and stole their private sex tape, okay? And up until this point, like, celebrity sex tapes weren't a thing because the internet wasn't a thing, really. So he went to try to sell it to, like, actual, like, porno film companies, and they were all like, no, because that's illegal, you stole it and we can't do that. So Seth Rogen gets the bright idea to just start like mass producing it and then selling it over the internet, which works, except, and this was my immediate thought, and I turned to Maddie and I was like, anyone could just make a copy of this tape. And that's literally what happened, which is that he started making money and then everyone just started bootlegging it, and everyone was just buying bootlegs, and then he never made a cent off it. And yeah, the show's not done yet, so I don't know what happens to him, but like, I mean, he's broke at this point in the show. So anyway, yes, there's no money in copywriting things that can be sent around for free on the internet.
Oh, that stemmed from what we were saying about the meme.
Okay. Yeah. Also, like NFTs. I don't understand NFTs.
Don't even get me started.
How do you?
I don't want to.
No,
understand.
the idea of them makes me like really mad.
Me too. I've talked to so many people about this, and everyone is just like, I don't know, I can't think about it. It just
well, but you know
me.
what's fucked? You know how like those monkey ones are kind of the most popular ones, whatever the fuck it is?
Yes.
Apparently, the first one ever, a guy sold to his friend for like $8 million or something ludicrous, but he gave his friend $8 million to buy it off of him for $8 million. So essentially, no one really ever bought it. And the value behind NFTs is all fake.
Wow.
Why did he do that?
Because now you sell one for $8 million, and now all of the subsequent ones are assumed to be worth the same amount of money. So it's all fake, just like money. And
the entire market is just built on a lie. The entire NFT market is just built on a lie.
Just
and
like
it's gonna collapse, and
capitalism. But we're not going to get into that today. Unless you want to talk to me for another 3 hours. But yeah.
It would be fitting for this episode because we have talked about the movie. We've talked about almost anything except the movie in this episode. I feel so bad for Princess Bride fans. Listen, if you are a fan of The Princess Bride, just know I am also a big fan.
Yeah, but like, what do you talk about? Like, yeah, this scene is great. That scene is great. Everyone's performance is great.
Exactly.
They definitely learned how to do that sword fight. IMDB told me 20 times.
Yeah, like if you stumbled upon this, just know that generally we try to.
If you made it this far without getting mad at us.
But like sometimes it's just hard. Sometimes like when a movie's this just like objectively great and we all love it, like what do you even say? Like
it's always funny when like we have full control over what we choose to do.
That's the thing. We fully could have just paired this with something, but
at the same time,
it's just funny to me when we reach that point in the episode where like, but what do we even talk about?
Well, because now what are we gonna do? Keep a half of an episode, watch another movie, record again? That's just silly.
Well, I think we talked about the movie for the majority.
Yeah, I think we did a decent enough job. I'm just fucking. It's just because the tangents we had were so tangenty that like. No, but also, like, it is that thing, too, of I feel like it's way easier for us to stay on topic when we're shitting on something, but I don't want to be negative every episode and just shit on something. Like, I don't think there are episodes we've stayed more on topic for than, like, Mother and the Zack Snyder.
I was going to say, we don't fully shit on things often, though.
No, it's pretty rare, and that's, like, I think a good thing, because I'd rather not be an angry internet person that always shits on things. But yeah, I
mean, the Dark Knight episode was 5 hours of us mostly praising those movies.
But also, like, the first hour, we didn't even... I was just me being like, so Batman.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't even start talking about the movies.
It was topical. Like,
It was.
very
At least it
important.
was on point. Yeah, it was on brand. Yeah.
Also, okay, take away 1 hour. It's 4 hours.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Very true. Oh, good times.
I can't fucking believe it was a 5-hour combined episode. Like,
Yeah. We should have
It's
expected
impressive.
it to be longer. I mean, I think the thing that gave me false confidence that it would be shorter was that the Sam Raimi Spider-Man one was only like 2.5.
well, there's a lot more to talk about in the Batman one.
Oh, obviously, like, yeah, but those ones are so iconic. I was kind of like, like it'll probably be about the same, but no, not even
Times
close.
two.
Not even close. It was literally times 2.
Now we know.
So,
And
now we
even
know.
in that one, in the Sam Raimi one, that was similar where like the first half an hour or so was just Spider-Man lore.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay. Is that it? Does it have anything else to say?
I mean, if you haven't seen this movie and you've listened to all this for some reason, like, I would still watch this
Yes,
movie. It's
yeah.
a great movie. And also, like, if you have, I would still recommend picking up that book by William Goldman that has his screenplays with, like, his own writings about his screenplays in it, because there is lots of fun, like, context for this in there that I think will make the movie even more enjoyable as an adult.
Have you read the book? The original book?
I haven't read the original novel, no. One of our classes did in high school. One of our English classes.
Really?
Writer's Craft?
No, it wasn't Writer's Craft. Like, it was, we can bleep out this name. Carol, you can bleep out this name. Have fun. But it was one of English classes. I think in grade 11. Might have been grade 12. No, must have been grade 12, because I feel like her and she started hanging out with me in grade 12. That was kind of random. So I think it's because you guys were friends, and then we were friends, so then she was like, oh, like Marco, and then sometimes we would hang out. So yeah, I remember one time doing homework and she was like reading Princess Bride and she was like, this book's dumb, and I was like, okay. You know sometimes when you like there's a person you just know, I'm like, what am I gonna say to you to convince you that this is good? Like, I can't argue with you. Like, I know that no matter what I say, you're gonna have this opinion, so yeah, sure.
Yeah,
it's dumb.
don't waste your energy.
Go ahead. I don't care. I'm glad I didn't waste my energy.
This just adds to the discrepancies between our English classes, because I never read this
Same.
book in English.
I did. It was literally just her class, but I don't know what what teacher she had.
Oh, it wasn't even your class?
No, it wasn't even my class. Yeah,
Oh.
it was just her class. Yeah, weird.
I definitely had English with her in either the 11th or 12th grade. So it couldn't have been the class I was in.
Text her.
You and I were in English together in grade 11, so it couldn't have been that
Okay.
because we didn't read it
I
then.
really did think I was
You
with
want me to-
her in the 12th grading, but whatever. I don't know.
I mean, I can text her right now and ask. We haven't talked in like
Can
2
you
years.
imagine?
Just random.
I mean, I would. I have no shame. I don't care. I just like to imagine, because she's engaged, right? So I just like to imagine, like, her and her fiance are, like, out on a date, and she gets a text from a guy, and it's just,
Hey, what English class did you read The Princess Bride in high school?
Oh my god. That's funny.
So good. That'd be so good, dude.
I need a response in like 5 minutes because it's for the podcast.
It's for, yeah, this is very pertinent information.
Holy shit, we're at an hour and 50 minutes? How did that happen?
Yeah, but like half hour of that is gonna get cut. So
I don't know. I might work some magic and keep it all in. We'll see. We'll see how I feel when I'm editing.
The only
Even the ghost, even the fake
yeah,
ghost
that's
in
the
my
only part that
basement.
we have to cut, I think.
I don't know.
We'll see what you can do. If you can make it
I
funny,
think
yeah.
a ghost hunt is entertaining, especially if it's audio only.
Yeah, true.
Well, we didn't see anything. We only heard something.
That's
so.
true. Ooh, spooky.
Thanks again for listening to the feature-length podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to us if you liked this video or audio. Give us a rating and review if the platform you're listening to us on allows that. If you want to stay up to date with the latest episodes of the podcast, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the bell to be notified when we post a new video, or follow the podcast on Spotify. If you want to connect with us directly, you can follow us on Instagram at featurelengthpodcast, or even send us an email at featurelengthpodcast@gmail.com. Catch you on the flip side.